In this video, I want to take a close look at 3 different dividend stocks that has payout in March. And all of them has a very high dividend growth rate. The first one is T. Rowe Price, stock ticker TROW. And as you can see from the chart, it has had 2 big dips in the last year. And as the market went up here in January, it's also gone up because it is an investment management company, so they do have a lot of assets under management. So when the market goes up, they go up. They're currently trading at $125.82. They have a PE non-GAAP forward ratio of around 18. It's a bit on the high side for the coming year, but I think that's a transient dip, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. They also have a dividend yield of 3.81%, which is kind of nice, really high compared to what they usually add, and they do have a very healthy payout ratio of 32%. Some of my personal favorite metrics is the EPS growth to be above 10%, and they do have 22. The return on equity above 15%, it's at 26, and a net debt to EBITDA below 4. T. Rowe Price doesn't have any at all, so that's actually 0. But let's try to jump into the dividend data tab. As mentioned, they do have a dividend yield currently of around 3.8%. They have offered an average annual total return over the last 20 years of 13.6%, which is really high. The dividend growth rate over the last 10 years is 13%, so it's a really fast grower. It's actually gone down a little bit the last time from 21 to 22, but as an asset under management, I could probably see why. But again, you can see here they have had some massive dividend increases, like 20% and so on in all of these. There's a lot of high growth rates seen here, and you can see from the trend line down here that it's actually gone up over the years. Coming down here where we can see the dividend yield plotted against the 5-year average dividend yield, you can actually see around now there should probably be a pretty nice discount of around 26% to be gained. And you can also see on this 5-year dividend, whenever it goes up into the blue area, it should be undervalued. And whenever it stays down in the red area, it should be overvalued, at least according to the average dividend yield. So right now it looks to be a pretty reasonable buy. I think even with the PE ratio being a bit on the high side maybe now, I think that's transient. So I think right now it should be a pretty valuable investment if you believe in the long-term outlook. Next one in line is Zoetis, stock ticker CTS, the animal healthcare company, currently trading at $167.80. Over the last year, it has gone down quite a bit, but again, started to bottom around here and then started to go up again in line with the general market. And over the last month, has gone up around 12%. It has a PE non-GAAP forward ratio of around 32, which is in line with the 5-year average, so looks reasonably valued in that regard. It has a dividend yield of 0.89%, which we'll look definitely into a little bit later, and a very healthy payout ratio of around 28%. Some of the metrics I personally prefer is the EPS growth and ROE being above 10 and 15%, which is at 21 and 44%, which is crazy. Net debt to EBITDA below 4, 1.15, so not a problem at all. And looking at some of the dividend data, you can see here that if we zoom in a bit, the average total return over the last 20 years is 17.8%. And look at this one, the dividend growth rate over the last 10 years, 19.15%. And if we look at some of the increases per year, 25, 30, and so on, it's massively high numbers we see. And you can also see the dividend growth rate trend down here is going just up and to the right, just as we want to see. And coming down here to the dividend yield plotted against the last 5 years average, you can actually see that it's gone up quite a bit. It actually appears that the discount is only being greater in 22 and here starting in 23. And the 5-year dividend yield, as mentioned earlier, if you are in the blue, then it could be a potentially good buy, at least looking at compared to the average yield. And with the PE ratio being at the historic average, I think it should be a pretty reasonable time to invest in Zoetis if you really prefer the company's long-term outlook. The last one is Fidelity National Information Services, stock ticker FIS. They provide financial technology, and they right now are trading around $75.39. Gone down quite a lot, but again, being a financial service provider, they are obviously hit a lot by the macroeconomic environment. The PE ratio non-GAAP forward is around 11, which is 40% below the 5-year average, so could be pretty well valued right now. Also boasting a dividend yield of 2.49%, a very, very high payout ratio. But again, due to how the environment looks for them right now, I think it's not something I would too worried about, because this is something that should definitely improve in the future. If we come into the dividend data tab, you can see here, if we zoom in a little bit more, then you can see here that they actually have quite a nice growth rate to the dividend, because you can see the dividend growth rate over the last 10 years is almost 9%. But if we look here, they actually had 2016, they had 2020 where they didn't increase it. And if you look at all the other numbers, they increased like 20% or 11 or 10. So there's a lot of high growth rates being done year on year. So in the long run, I think there really could be a very high potential upside here. You can see in the dividend growth rate, the trend is also moving up. Not as much as the two other stocks we've gone through, but it's going there. Coming down here to the dividend yield plotted against the 5-year average dividend yield, you can see also that it's gone up quite a bit as the stock price have dropped, obviously, where there could be potentially be a discount right now. If you see here the 5-year dividend yield coming in, you can see we are very, very high into the blue area. So with the PE being as low as it is compared to the 5-year average, with the yield being so high it is compared to the 5-year average, I think it's actually a pretty good idea to go into FIS if you believe in the long-term outlook of the company. So that was 3 stocks with March payout. We had Zoetis, we had T. Rowe Price, and we had Financial Services. Leave a comment below if you are interested in any of these picks here. And if you want to support me, please subscribe to the channel and like the video.